RM Bridge version 11.06. I'm going to present one hybrid deck model for a precast pre-stressed concrete deck with a variable width and the new enhancements introduced in Modeler. The new features refers to automatically assign reference sets to part elements when inserting simple composite beams in a multi-girder deck cross-section. Merging coincident slave nodes existed in the cross-section, and how to generate cross members with link elements and by subdividing them connect shell nodes. So let's start. Starting by defining the bridge axis and by introducing the composite beam that will be used in the multi-girder deck cross-section. Initiate by creating the first deck cross-section with 6 composite beams. Place the 6th construction line that will be used in geometry definition, one for each composite beam axis. After, define variables that will correspond to the distance between the composite beams. 3 partial distance to the right and to the left side of the bridge axis. We can now insert the single beam cross-section into our multi-girder deck cross-section. We place one beam in each position and at the same time name the appropriate variables. After inserting all the 6 composite beams in our deck cross-section, we can edit variables and assign formulas for calculation. When adding new composite beams, additional part elements are automatically introduced into the cross-section. That means that each composite beam will have their own individual part numbers. This is important for after analysis to have the normal split and joint forces in each deck's composite beam. We can verify in reference sets that the single beam information are now assigned to the correspondent part number. This corresponds to a new feature available in version 11.06 that will be very useful in future beam assignments, as for example in tendons definition. We can now insert the shell elements in the deck slab for our hybrid solution. It's possible to do the subdivision of the shell elements for getting a more detailed mesh, as well as to position the generated nodes at the top of the deck for correct definition. In this release, we have introduced a new comment in Shell Element menu for merging coincident slave nodes. This will be relevant for cases when user wants to assure the continuity between different part elements and attribute just one unique node in that connection. We have now the final 6 beams cross-section. User can use this definition and by copying and introducing the respective modifications generate the 5 beams and 4 beams decks cross-section. One important thing is to keep always the same ID for part numbers and respective beams. So after, when assigning the schema numbering, the program can identify the correct part and generate the correct numbering. In tables and formulas, we load the table values for variables that will be considered along the bridge development. Then we select the schema numbering and load defaults. We start main girder definition considering the 6 beams cross-section. Apply group, material properties and FEM modeling for all parts of the cross-section. Then, for generating the hybrid model, we edit the part element corresponding to the girder and deselect the option for FEM. We can also change the material properties for girder elements. For updating cross-sections, we go to the corresponding point station, edit the segment point and modify cross-section before and after that point. When changing cross-section, and as we have kept the same part positions, the only numbering that we need to enter is the new slave nodes for shell elements. After we assign variables inside of the main girder, now we can see the 3D view of our deck model and verify the composite beams definition. So for the connection supports for bearings, we introduce the first 6 springs in the first cross section that represent the left abutment, and after we copy that information through the other spans. For cross members, we start by importing the cross-section that will be used in the link element definition for generating the cross members in the model. So we define two links, link 1 that will be used over the abutments and link 2 over the piers. So in the current version 11.06, in main girder link elements definition, we introduced one new option that will permit user to consider the subdivision of the link element, taking into account all part, slave, and intermediate shell nodes existed through the link line. This will be very useful tool in case of hybrid models for assuring the correct connection between the beams and the shell nodes. We can review again our model in the 3D view, now with the cross members defined, and send it to Analyzer for the structural analysis. So this was the new features in Modeler for hybrid solutions in RM Bridge Connect Edition version 11.06.